So let's talk a little about motivation and leadership. If you've taken the M code, if you know your own M code, you will see, right, that we not only highlight your top motivations, but we also tell you about dimensions of motivation, right? And those dimensions put you in one of 8 different motivational dimensions that describe the core of how you're wired. There's 32 different drivers of motivation, 32 different motivations that we put in your top 10, your middle 10, your bottom 10, and you should definitely look at those. You should understand those. Those affect how you think about your strengths and what you do and how you approach life. But the dimensions of motivation allow us to talk to you in a broader way, right? Instead of picking one of 32, we can pick one of 8 and describe it. And when we're talking about leadership, those 8 are a shorthand, if you will. Can you find a leader out of any of the 8 dimensions? Absolutely, no problem. But some of these dimensions are going to aggregate your leaders more than others. And it depends on the kind of work you're doing, right? We have all been in a situation where you're working at a company where the most important dynamic is scratching out a little bit of performance better than the previous year. 2% growth, 3% growth. It's an internal organic growth that you're just trying to claw at and climb at, and you're doing something in a space that maybe is highly competitive, and a 2% or 3% increase means everything. And that's awesome. There are other places where a 2% or 3% increase, whether it's in throughput or in revenue, is boring as heck. If you're not initiating something that would get you a 120% increase, that 2% is a drop in the bucket. It's not even material, right? Different organizations and different parts of organizations are wired differently. And to understand that is critical. You have to understand, okay, what are we looking for here, right? Are you looking for a player coach, someone who deeply understands the game and can get on the sideline and provide guidance? They're someone who's done every job that they're leading, right? Every person in their purview is doing a role they've already done before. And so that leader is the player coach. And optimizers, right, are great at that. They're like, no, I've been there, done. Let me show you how to do this. Hey, I want you to do this. And optimizers are going to get that 2 to 3%. And that's awesome. But optimizers are not your normal leaders. They're not your natural leaders. They're just, hey, listen, I'm a subject matter expert in optimization. That's the thing that moves me. And so I'm very focused in on that. I love that. I love every part of that for my job. And I love that you guys, and I have a whole department that is just focused on that. You can have if you're hiring for a director of operations, you may need a lot less orchestration and you want a lot more optimization. And so you may put an optimizer in that role simply because they're going to get the people that are under them, and the people under them are going to get them, and they're all going to be excited, and they're all going to just look for that 2%, 3% increase. And you go, an optimizer for that role is perfect. But if you're looking for a generic leader, your orchestrators are often, depending on the context of your job, orchestrators are the folks who are kind of what you might think of as a natural leader. There's no real natural to any of this, but they're moved by pulling people together and getting them together to focus on something. And that's a little different than a relator who would constantly check the temperature of the group. If you have a destination and you want to drive to that destination and you want to take people with you, then an orchestrator or even an influencer may be better than a relator. But if you want someone to manage a group of people, they're all doing the things they're supposed to be doing, and you just want to catch the high performers that are getting less engaged and slowly getting ready to make their way out, you might want a relator over that, because a relator is going to constantly evaluate and check the temperature of the group and be able to tell you, hey, I think we have a risk here, right? So you have influencers, orchestrators, and relators. They're all people-oriented, which is awesome, right? They're different. And the challenge, of course, is that while you put one of those in play, you may put another person of a different dimension on the team, and that causes some conflict, right? If you put a relator who cares about, how everyone's doing, and you put a driver in place who cares about progress and movement, those two might clash, right? Because the driver's like, hey, we got to go. We got stuff to do. And the relator's like, hold on a second. I want to make sure that we're all okay. And I saw that you had some dissent in you. Why don't you tell us about what's going on? And the driver's like, I don't care about what's going on. I know where we're trying to go, right? Or an achiever who says, why is that relator taking all the oxygen in the room? I'm important and I'm a subject matter expert who would like to tell you what we need to do to get this right. So once you start understanding the dimensions, you start being able to not only understand who might be a better leader, but you can predict conflict. You can predict the potential conflict and you can mitigate it. I tell this story to most of my leaders when we get started. I go, hey, imagine that you really love those little meatballs that come with the toothpicks at a party, right? You really love that. The problem is that when you go out to the big table with all the food, there's only one plate with those meatballs, and there's maybe 20 meatballs there. And so if that's your jam, what do? You walk up to the table, you grab 2 or 3 that you eat because you love it, and then you just kind of stand there and hover there, right? Because you're watching to see if other people are eating it or not, and if they take a bite or 2, then you're like, I gotta get another one before these disappear. You start feeling that anxiety, but also other people are feeling the anxiety because you're standing right over the meatball plate, right? And so you're like, what? This is uncomfortable for everybody. But imagine if when you walk in the door, before you even get to the big living room area with the big table and all the food on it, I pull you into the kitchen and I point to a huge platter and I go, I made extra meatballs just for you. So there's a whole bunch out there, but if you want more and whatever you haven't eaten during the evening, you can just take that platter home with you. Are you going to be standing out at that table hovering over the meatball plate? No. You're going to go on and have a great party because I already took care of the potential problem before it got started. And motivation dimensions, right? When you understand the motivational dimensions, the 8 different ones that people find themselves in, the moment you figure that out, you can predict, you can anticipate leadership challenges, leadership conflict, and you can go head it off at the pass. You can go to an achiever and say, listen, I want to bring you in as subject matter expert to this group. I have a relator who's leading it, right? And here's what's going to potentially happen. You're going to get to a point where you're thinking, well, am I the star of this show or are they? And I want you to know your subject matter expertise makes you the expert, makes you the star of this show. But we have a couple of different issues going on, and I need to make sure that that relator can make sure everybody stays engaged. So they're monitoring this and that. So they're driving the bus. But when it comes time to put someone on the mic to talk about the tour on the bus, that's your spotlight. All I'm doing is shaping an understanding of what all is happening so that the achiever doesn't get upset. Or I go to a driver and I go, hey driver, you have an orchestrator who's pulling everyone together. They're going to worry about progress. They're going to worry about getting to the goal, but they're also going to worry about making sure the whole team goes with them. And your inclination is going to be, we just got to move, right? Less talking, more doing. I want you to take a back seat when they're doing their leading, and then they will call on you to drive things forward. And when it's that time, that's when I want you to do it. But they know you're an expert in that. They're going to call on you. And I go to the orchestrator and I go, hey, if this person isn't leveraged, if you don't put their best stuff to work, they're going to walk. They're going to quit. They're going to stop being part. They're not leaving the company. They're just leaving this project. They're going to do that because you're not putting in the use. And the thing they hate the most is having information and knowledge, having expertise, and it's not being put to use. And so, you go, oh gosh, I don't want that, right? Let me get them going on something. So by having the conversations in advance, not only when you understand, the dimensions of motivation, not only can you help pick what your organization needs as a leader. Do they need a subject matter expert? Okay, let me go with an achiever. Do they need someone who's going to just navigate all the hurdles? I need a driver. Do they need someone who's going to care about the people and drive the people forward like it's a mission, drive it like it's an agenda, like they're trying to do something that's never been done before? I want an influencer. Is this group of people looking to just get everything a little bit better? I want an optimizer. Do I need to just have a pure leader in the sense of pulling disparate people together and driving them forward? I want an orchestrator. Do I want someone to take the temperature of the room? I want a relator. Do I want someone to cast vision for where we're going? I want a visionary. What do I need? Understanding the dimension of motivation allows us to better understand who we put in the leadership role, but it also allows us to look at the rest of the team, if everyone's gotten their M code, and figure out where are we going to see the potential conflict and how do we mitigate it before it starts. Because if you can do that, then you've cleared the runway to really let the team fly. And that's the whole point of putting a leader in place is to get the movement, the progress, what you want. In order to do that, you need to clear the runway. You do that by being predictive, by understanding the challenges that this particular group of people, with this particular leader and these particular challenges. How do you get rid of all that? How do you mitigate all that? So the risks are down and now they're free to run. The M code and our motivation dimension are the way in which you navigate that.